A very good day to you, and thank you for joining us once again on this beautiful ThinkSet podcast. So, again, to just remind you, we set up the ThinkSet to basically go out there and profile Botswana who are making waves. And I think I've taken a bit of a different direction in this over time, and I've realized that we've always thought of Botswana as me and you, but you think about it, Botswana are not just me and you. So on this ThinkSet today, I'm with Arjun, who is a businessman, and he's doing very well. I think some of you relate him to primarily Alpha Direct. That's the most popular brand in the country. A very good day to you, and thank you for joining me on the ThinkSet. I really appreciate you making time to be here.
No, thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. Your team reached out, and I'm very happy to do this for the good of our country and for all that is good. And thank you for all that you do for the country as well.
All right, thank you very much, and I think this is a perfect timing. So we are seeing a lot of a shift. Last year our government changed, and now we are seeing a lot of activity that needs to be done. But before we go into those, I want to go into you and understand who you are. Just tell our viewers just who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you got to.
Sure. Na ke Botswana, ke tswa ko Lobatse, and I was born in Lobatse, or grew up in Lobatse. I went to Crescent School in Lobatse. And did after my schooling, I came to GABS. I did my undergraduate at the University of Botswana. I did an undergraduate degree in accounting. And then from there, I moved to the US, and I started my master's in accounting in the US. And I'm also a certified public accountant, like a chartered accountant in the US. I worked in the US for many years, and my dad passed away around 2006, 2007. And at that time, my brother and I actually moved back. And I'm sure you know my brother.
Yeah,
He's
I know him
very,
well.
very famous, the more famous brother.
He's the most famous of all. And I think in Lobatse as well, I think he was one of the most known as well within the community as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's always been a very, very well-known guy. So and we my brother and I were both in the US at the time, and we decided to move back to Botswana. And that's we've been here since 2007, 2008 since then, and trying to do what we can to make some changes.
All right. So one thing I've learned about Lobatse guys, and this includes me, we never go back. Why?
It's really unfortunate, and. So one of the things that my brother and I do is maybe once a month or so, we take a drive back to Lobatse and, just go down memory lane and just go down the streets.
It doesn't change.
It hasn't changed, I mean, in fact, to some degree it has changed, but not for the positive. I see a lot of buildings are now dilapidated. Like the economy has kind of slowed down a little bit there, and less focus has been put into reviving the economy there and stuff. And it's a bit disheartening for me, To be honest with you, I'm a big believer that some of the most successful people in the country actually come from Lobatse. There's something in the water there,
Yeah. Actually, when you look at GABS, the most moving businesses, the most known people, 100%. The most active people seem to be from Lobatse.
100%. 100%.
I think that hustle drive is there. That Pilling water is...
It's something in the Pilling water, for sure.
Yeah. So now let's have a look at what, obviously, you came in from the US, you started what you did. One of the biggest things that you started that is the noisiest brand you guys have started is obviously Alpha Direct. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Sure. So Alpha Direct was kind of a thesis where my brother and I were, when we came back, we were like, listen, we want to start something that has like widespread impact that can actually make a change, rather than doing more and more of the same old, like let's see how we can do something different, something unique. Because we were exposed to the US, we saw a lot of insurance companies in the US, like Geico, Progressive, a lot of big insurance companies in the US. And one of the interesting things was there was a model called of insurance companies that were not your traditional model of insurance companies, and they used a slightly different model. And we said, hey, is this a thesis for something we can do here in Botswana, where they're technology-oriented, they go direct to consumer for retail business, for some portion of the retail business and stuff. And we kind of adopted that model. And our big focus has always been on technology and using technology to make insurance more accessible, affordable, easy to use.
Okay. So now we look at Botswana. Is insurance a good business?
No,
Market.
I think I think now, when people look at the success of Alpha Direct, and a lot of there's a general assumption that, hey, insurance must be a great business.
Yeah.
I think anything is a good business. Like, I don't think there is really such a thing as, one thing is a good business and one thing is a bad business. Is insurance a good business? Yeah, absolutely. But I think the more important than the business itself is how you run your business.
Yeah.
And I think a case in point would be Choppy's back in, 1993, 94.
Yeah.
It was all the big South African boys who were here in Botswana at that time. The industry was like, there was no margins. It was like, competitive, and they basically had a monopoly. And I think what they did was, and I think the same with Cephalana as well. When
Yeah.
Cephalana got into the Shoppers brand and all
Yeah.
that stuff, it was already a very, 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 there was so many players in the industry. But I think what happens is, when you come in and your thesis is, listen, I'm just going to do things better, faster, cheaper, you can succeed in any industry. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So we look at the economy now. The reason I'm asking about insurance is that there's a lot of insurance companies, and like you say, everyone thinks there's money because every guy who works in insurance drives an expensive car, or whoever owns an insurance has got big money, right?
Yeah.
It's a big gamble when you look at it. But people have got a perception that insurance is only for the funeral. I'm not going to insure my car. In case the car kills me, I'm insured. But if the car dies, it's okay, I'll buy a new one. So how do we then see it becoming value along the way within the economy?
I think the most important thing is, us, Rona, as the insurance companies, right? We have to design products that consumers want, need, and are going to add value to their lives, right? The main issue is, like, you look at the insurance penetration rate in Botswana, it's dismally low. Like, we have an insurance penetration rate, like last time I checked, less than 2% of GDP, is spent on insurance. When you look at more developed economies, like in South Africa, it's about 6%. So we're kind of lagging a lot behind. And part of that, we feel, is it's a problem of products not being designed for consumers' needs, right? Botswana are not the same as South Africans. Botswana are not the same as, people in Europe, or whatever the case is, right? We are different people, and we need different products. So a lot of it is product design to make products more affordable, accessible, easy to use. So that's
Right. I always see Alpha Direct boxes in front of shops. At first time I said, I'm like, wait, insurance in a box, what does that mean? How do I carry a box and I think I've got insurance? Maybe let's just break that down a little bit, for me to understand why design such a cheap package. Is it really worth it?
Yeah, so it was a very interesting idea. We were doing a brainstorming session once, where we were looking at the same problem, like, how do we make insurance more affordable, accessible, easy to use? And when we looked at the problem, we figured out that, for somebody who does not have any kind of track record, or who's never bought insurance before, maybe they just have a funeral policy, or they maybe never had any insurance. How do you explain the concept of insurance, right? How do I come to you and say, okay, listen, I'm going to take a little bit of money from you today, and then if something happens, I'm going to pay you like 10 times of that money when that happens? It's a promise, right? Now, a promise is built on trust. There must be something to show trust. And if we live in a society where people don't have not experienced that concept fundamentally, or it's something new, and don't think about Gaborone, think about like the more rural parts of Botswana, and even the continent itself, like more rural parts, like a lot of people haven't had exposure to insurance, like complex insurance products. So we said, okay, we're going to make our products a suite of products that are very simple, very easy to understand, and something that you can just touch and feel, and you feel like, hey, there's something to this. I've got something to this. The good thing is we patented that whole process and the technology and everything behind it. We patented that once we came up with the idea, and it's just something that makes it easy for people to get the concept of what I'm getting. So I'm paying money, I'm getting something in exchange for it, right?
Yeah.
And the box is very clear. It explains in very simple terms, this is what you're covered for, this is not what you're not covered for. And it's not like complicated, like 20-page documents and stuff. It's very simple. It's like 8 pages. You can read it and you understand exactly what it covers and what it doesn't.
All right. So insurance is one thing, and most of the time we see it boosting the economy a lot.
Yeah.
Instead of me going to take a loan now to go and fix a car, someone can cover it for me. But when you extend this now into the bigger scope of the economy, we are in a race as a country now
Yeah.
to create a new economy for Botswana, which is different from where we came from, because diamonds are finished. This is going off and so on. What do you see as a possibility in the next 4 years? Because we're looking at the government that is now on a 4-year track.
Yeah, 100%. Look, this is something I'm extremely passionate about. I've been posting on my LinkedIn regularly on different ideas that we can do as a country to supplement. And I think this is the most important thing to understand. Like in economics, you have the primary economy and then you have a secondary economy and a tertiary economy, right? So your primary economy until now has pretty much been diamonds and tourism, right? Diamonds, tourism, beef, for the most part. So, and diamonds was about 70% of that. Now, how do we replace? And it's not to say that diamond prices are never going to pick up or whatever the case is, but we don't know, right? We don't know if they're going to pick up. So we have to diversify. We don't have a second, there's no other choice. We have to diversify the economy. 2.3 million lives are dependent on us being able to diversify the economy, right? So we look at some of the different ideas. To create a primary economy, we have to export something to another country and take money from them, right? So there are different ideas that we can come up with, and these are some of the ideas that I've been covering on my LinkedIn as well. So, for example, one of them that we look at is, we could build a model for a charter city, and it's a very controversial idea on, what a charter city is, but it is a concept that has been put in place in some countries, and like I think in Honduras as well. They came up with the concept of a charter city. Other ideas would be, for example, retiree visas. You can bring in retirees who can come in here. So if I'm a retiree from America and I'm 60 years old, a 60-year-old person is not going to take a job from a Botswana, right? They're just here to retire.
Even if they're going to add value to it, because they might be coming in and saying, look, I've got this, but I'm going to run a small business to hire a few more people.
Exactly.
Some of them are at 60, 100%. Some of them are still active.
100%. So if they do something, they might do something just, that's not going to take a job away from a Botswana, but at the same time is going to contribute to the economy. And they're earning in dollars from their pensions or whatever the case is. And if we can let them live in Maun or close to the Okavango Delta, I'm sure they would love to be able to live in that beautiful serene setting and see elephants and all that kind of stuff. And they're spending their dollars in our economy and boosting our economy through tourism and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, I'll step back slightly to the charter city, right?
Sure.
Is it an idea because of where we are located as Botswana, or is there potential for us to grow in terms of airports and aircrafts and so on?
Yeah, so I think the idea for a charter city actually is more a governance thing. Okay, right. And it's a very controversial idea, and I'm not saying one way or the other that it is the right idea for us as Botswana or not. And I'll explain maybe a little bit of a backtrack on what a charter city is. So in Honduras, they came up with, there's a company called Prospera. It's an American company that basically came out and they went to the government and they said, listen, we want to set up this charter city on this island called Roatan, right? And effectively what happens is it's like a special economic zone, like how CESA gives special economic zones. It's a special economic zone that's guaranteed for 50 years. Now, if I was to come in there, I'm a foreign investor for argument's sake, and I come in and I set up a business in that economy, I get to choose what regulation I'm regulated by, right? So I have freedom and flexibility to choose British, governance, or like, and this is mainly for industries that are governed by regulation. So like medical research, insurance and financial services, banking, those kind of industries where you have, so, you basically have the option. And the idea with a charter city is governance should compete,
Yeah.
right? Nobody should have a monopoly on governance. That's really what the premise is. Now, why when a competition, it's been proven that competition is good for innovation,
Yeah.
right? So with the charter city, the idea is just that people are able to the government is able to compete with a private government,
Yeah.
right? To say, okay, if you are in the city or whatever, the small enclave,
Yeah.
you get to choose your free governance on how you're going to be governed, and obviously the laws of Botswana still apply. Like if you
Yeah.
murder someone, you're still going to be tried in a court in Botswana. That doesn't
Yeah.
change. But your regulatory guidelines, you think about what we have in Botswana. We have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of regulators. Like we have so many regulators and so much regulation.
Sometimes they fight over actually activity as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you look, regulation is good, but too much regulation is a problem, right?
Yeah.
Now, you look at us, like we are regulated by BAWA, by NBFIRA, there's about like 5 or 6 different regulators that kind of regulate something, a business. Now, the while that is good in the sense that it protects the average Botswana, the problem is no new insurance companies can really start.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have 10 million or 50 million pula to start an insurance company, how do I afford compliance with all this regulation? So it dissuades entrepreneurship, right? And that's really what the problem is. Overregulation, when you need 10 board members in your directorship, you need this compliance and that compliance and all that kind of stuff, it becomes very expensive to start a new business. So when we come back to like the concept of a charter city, the idea is that for small businesses, nascent businesses that are starting, and that could be businesses in biotech, right? Biotechnology. They want to investigate different kinds of medication and all that kind of stuff. The bar for those kind of industries is so high because, especially if they're in America, America is very well known for its intense regulation and stuff. It becomes incredibly expensive to test new medication, which is why the cost of medication goes up and so on and so forth. So the idea is just that while it's not to say that you should have zero regulation, but choose your regulation. Maybe you choose your regulation of the UK, or you choose the regulation of Barbados, or whatever the case is. You're able to choose a jurisdiction that might be more less onerous.
Yeah. And actually, come to think of it, some compliances in some countries actually much easier than the ones in Botswana.
100%.
So it means that I might qualify my product out, let's say in Zambia, for example, based on Zambian regulations.
Yeah.
But the same product is being imported back into Botswana.
Yeah.
So I'd manufacture, let's take sanitary pads. In Botswana, regulation is this high. But if in the US, for example, it might be a little bit lower, I manufacture there. Then I'm bringing it back to Botswana. So I might as well test my regulation while I'm at home. I don't need to go and spend money in America. Let me spend it here, comply in the US, 100%. And then give that Bob the certification to Bob's, and they probably will improve it. So
and I think, just sorry to cut you off, but to kind of chime in on that, this is the issue, right? Like we become less competitive as a country with too much regulation. We become less competitive as a country because, when we remember, we're always in competition. We are in competition at the primary economy level. We are always in competition. Are our diamonds cheaper than diamonds from Namibia? Are our diamonds cheaper than diamonds from Russia? Right? That's the primary economy. Is our beef cheaper and better tasting than beef from Argentina? So we're always competing in these things, and the more regulation and hurdles you have, we become less and less competitive.
Yeah. Okay, so now how do we then get this going? I mean, we obviously need to see how to build this economy, how to build this charter mindset as well within this. Who gets to benefit the most from this? Is it a government benefit, or is this going to directly benefit the people?
I think when you look at concepts like charter cities, or so the charter mindset, like even with regards to schooling, right? Schooling, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. It's not necessary that everything has to be done by the government. So you take, for example, schools, right? There is a case, and I'm not advocating either for or against, but why can't we go to the private sector? Small people who maybe want to start a school. Let's say you want to start a school. You don't have the money to build the buildings and all that kind of stuff. But government can come to you and say, hey, listen, Lobsec in Lobatse, we as government spend whatever, 20 million pula a year or 10 million pula a year to run that school. Why don't we give you this 10 million? You run the school for us.
And you give us the results.
That's it. Give us the results. That's it. If you can run it more cost efficiently than what government can do it, if you can squeeze out a little bit of extra margin out of that 10 million, great. But give us the results. We want all the students to pass. We want a pass rate of whatever, 65% or whatever the case is, or 70%. And that's the metric. If you don't get that pass rate, you lose your license for Lobsec.
Yeah, which then brings it to here. So obviously we know Botswana can't afford school fees. But if government is willing to say, look, I'm going to foot the bill the way I've been footing the bill, just operate it and make it as competitive as either Westwood or Baba or whoever is running private schools or Crescent. Because when we look at the education, it looks like there are better results from privately operated schools versus government operated schools. Yet I think the private schools spend less than government in operating one school.
100%.
All right. So then, which then brings the issue of the education is chartered. Because if you look at the education system, one school is running the US, one is running English, one is running whatever they want to run. But we are all sending our kids there. And they all graduate and go to UB or wherever.
100%.
Yeah.
So this is really the concept of private, like, where you have these private-public partnerships, right? PPPs, where the private sector can, so it's the idea on this concept is that government does not necessarily have to do everything, right? And government may not be the best placed to do everything, right? The private sector can help in some ways. And if the motivations are aligned so that we're not wasting money, but at the same time, we're results oriented. So like I said about the schools, same thing with hospitals, right? There might be some hospitals that can be private or clinics that can be privatized, right? But at the same time, every single Botswana should be able to attend that hospital for free.
Without an extra cost.
Without an extra cost. So that doesn't change. It's just the administration of the hospital where government says instead of paying directly to people for this and that and that and that, and then people are making cuts in the middle and all that stuff, let's just do this. Let's just pay one private operator, and this private operator, must deliver the results. Right? If they don't deliver the results, they lose their license to run that clinic or whatever the case is.
And I think also responsibility in terms of work ethic. It's different. You go to Princess Marina. You might even die in there, But you go to Gaborone Private or Sidilega or wherever, there is a lot of movement. Nurses are moving, doctors are moving. But in government, there isn't such movement. So I think maybe the work ethic is also public servants feeling, I have my job anyway. So do you think, are you suggesting that the private sector coming into this, the work ethic might improve?
I think it might. Historically, it's been shown many a times, like through many studies, that in a lot of cases, the private sector operates a lot more efficiently, mainly because there's competition, right? Whenever you don't have competition, like government has no competition, right? It's like their competition comes once every 4 years at election, right? And we know how politics is. People are not held directly accountable for the politicians are not held directly accountable for tangible results. Because Rona also we forget, right? I forgot that I got a terrible service at Princess Marina Hospital. When it comes to the voting ballot, I just put whatever my favorite party colors are and I just put it in, right? But we're not holding our officials to account as much as we would a private company. With a private company, it's very simple. You get evaluated every year, every 2 years. If you're not accomplishing your results, if the outcomes are not good for Botswana, and Botswana are not getting better education, getting better healthcare, getting better results, then you lose your contract and it goes to somebody else.
So we look at the slide back to education now. We've got an education system that is creating employees, right? Yet we are trying to grow an economy. With this pace, are we going to get anywhere?
I think you must remember something. One of my posts, someone actually made a very valid point. We are a welfare society. We've historically been a welfare society, right? We started, we got independence in 1966, right? And from 1966, it's been a question of how do we get the most number of people out of poverty, right? And if you actually look at that, we've done a fantastic job, right? You look at Botswana versus even South Africa. You go to Johannesburg, you find people on the streets. It's a lot worse than it is here because the income disparity is so high, right? We've done a decent job to ensure that there's a basic social safety net. So everybody kind of has access to a job to some degree, right? Yes, we have youth unemployment, which is a huge issue. Not everybody does actually have a job in actual fact. But what I'm saying is it's better than it might have been, being considering that we're a developing country. So the shift has to happen at some point, though. You cannot be a welfare state forever, right? And the problem we face right now is the falling diamond prices. With diamond prices falling, we don't know if and when it's going to recover. We cannot rely on one source of revenue forever. And this concept of a welfare state, how long can it continue? How long can we not hold people to account where we just say, okay, everybody gets a job? You know, you look at it even from the fact of, you know, when we have guys who cut grass on the side of the road, right? Somebody told me, and I don't know how true this is, that deliberately they don't give them weed whackers. They don't give them machines. Because they want to create jobs. So they get 10 times the number of people. They want to keep, they get 10 times the number of people and give them slashers by hand to cut the grass, right? Is that sustainable in the long run? And I think that's a question we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah, which then says, why is employment there? You know, why are we saying people should be employed? What exactly is it that defines employment in the context of Botswana? Is it time being spent somewhere, doing something, being engaged?
Correct.
Or is it actually doing something that's fruitful where you are?
Yeah. And I think that raises a very good question. I think there should be dignity with employment.
Yeah.
Without dignity, it's basically just a handout, right? Like that's what it is. You're basically giving handouts. And I don't think anybody wants a handout. Like I think Botswana are people who are very proud of, you know, who they are. And Botswana want to work and earn and contribute to their country and contribute to the economy.
Yeah. So now how do we build out of this? Because right now we're in a country where you are trying to hire someone and they tell you how much they want to earn, take it or leave it. Yet they're sitting at home and not earning anything and costing their mothers or fathers more in terms of the families, more in terms of consumption of cornflakes or whatever it is that they end up eating at home the whole day. How do we get people to understand your job might just be one step closer to financial freedom? Yeah.
So I think one of the nice things has been this entrepreneurial drive that we see in Botswana. Botswana, and I tell you, I travel to a lot of countries and I've seen a lot of different places. I think we are one of the most entrepreneurial societies I've seen, right? The problem is all the entrepreneurs I meet are working in the secondary economy. We're all working, even myself included, even insurance. We're all operating only in the secondary economy, right? The secondary economy is fueled by diamonds still. So without diamonds, we're not benefiting. So entrepreneurship also, for the sake of entrepreneurship, is not helping us as a country in the long run. We need more entrepreneurs to do the kind of large-scale stuff that's export-oriented, right? Like, you know, producing, you know, Arona Foods does, you know, cooking
oils and so on.
Yeah. So when you're producing something that can be exported and that brings in forex into the economy, that's contributing to the primary economy of the country.
So the primary economy relies obviously on the export or the foreign exchange that happens there.
Yes.
The secondary economy, are these the guys who are tendering?
Yes, to a large degree. To a large degree, it's your tenderpreneurs, you know, like who are not really, you know, like your tenderpreneurs who are kind of like living off. And in fact, I think tenderpreneurs are maybe at the bottom end of the barrel because they're not, the amount of value they, in a lot of cases, I'm not saying always, but the value they're adding is less than what could be given in a free market enterprise, right? In a free market society, they're not providing the cheapest water or the cheapest whatever. You know, it's
that doubling the price actually on everything.
Exactly.
So now we obviously are looking at now the Botswana Economic Transformation Plan or program that's now been launched by the president, and we've seen ideas being submitted and so on.
100%.
All the ideas, how would we know whose idea was taken and whose wasn't? Right now, after filtering over thousands of them, 200 have been taken in. So can this work, the approach?
I think it's maybe the best we have, right? The nice thing is government from what I see from my perspective when I look at this, I see government is saying, look, we don't have all the answers, which is the best thing from step number one. Instead of saying, I know best, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to now do this crazy venture or that crazy venture as government. They're actually coming forward and saying, look, we don't necessarily have a monopoly on ideas. So let's open it up. Botswana, what are your ideas? What can we do? Right? And Rona, we as Botswana have now submitted all these ideas to say, look, we can do, for example, coal bed methane projects. We can do power projects. We can do, large scale tourism ventures. We can do, there's so much that we have in Botswana, solar power projects, right? All these projects Botswana are submitting to government to say, hey, I think this is a really good idea, right? Nah, I don't have the money for it, or maybe I don't have the land for it, or whatever the case is. But I'm bringing the entrepreneurial desire to run this business. And I think my understanding is that government is now going to look at this and say, okay, great, with these labs that they're going to be running, my understanding is they're going to look at this and say, okay, we have an entrepreneur here who wants to start this business, but he doesn't have money. Where can we get him money from? Okay, we have this foreign investor who's come in from Germany and he has billions of pula. He wants to do a project, but he doesn't have an entrepreneur who wants to run the business. So you link the two of them together and you say, Mr. Kaelo, this is Mr. whoever from Germany. He's going to give you the money. You're going to run the business, right? Then there's a question of regulation, right? Now, Botswana Energy Regulatory Authority says, oh, we have this long process in order for you to get a solar power venture off the ground, right? So this is where the labs come in again. And then they catch the minister who's responsible for that and say, listen, how are you going to trim down this process so we can get this venture off the ground? And BPC, and then this person and that person, and they all come together to make this a reality.
All right. So obviously, a lot of us have thrown in ideas at this thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are probably working on them and so on. But some people are measuring 4 years, right? They don't measure beyond the 4 years. Some people are saying, yeah, no, you've got 4 years and 300,000 jobs you want to create. Yeah. Can it be achieved? Do we have enough manpower or human resource in Botswana? Based on what we've done in the past with our education system and so on, do we have enough human resource to actually fuel these projects that are coming up to be able to drive the economy?
If it is done the right way through private sector participation to a large degree, it might be possible.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. I think, in a sense, it's too little too late. Meaning, diversification is something we should have done like 20, 30 years ago. Like, we should have started diversifying in a big way before. But it's the nature of the resource curse. I'm sure you've heard of this concept called the resource curse, right?
Yeah.
Countries that are blessed with natural resources like diamonds or whatever the case is tend to kind of say, oh yeah, I'm getting a lot of money and my people are happy and all that kind of stuff. So do I really need to work hard to diversify, right?
Yeah.
And now it's only when the diamond revenue evaporates, now we are in crisis mode to try and figure out how do we get money, right? Because nobody likes a drop in quality of lifestyle, right? If I'm used to drinking coffee from Cafe Vida every day, it's not fun when tomorrow I can't afford that, you know? So as an economy, austerity is never fun. So now I think the government is trying everything they can to diversify and do whatever they can. 4 years is a very, very tight time frame to diversify an economy. But maybe what I think will happen is we'll start seeing the first glimmers of hope by maybe year 3 or so. Okay. Where we'll start seeing some incredible ideas. Like, I'm thinking like, hopefully we come up with some really, really high, like brilliant ideas, like, massive solar power projects or coal power projects or, oil refineries or, something something really exciting that can
And we're actually blessed with resources beyond the diamond.
100%.
We've got the whole of the Kalahari sitting there. No one is really leaving.
Yeah.
We're such a small population, such huge land. I mean, for our number of people, we shouldn't be occupying all this land. So
No, it's true.
we should be utilizing it.
Yeah.
But we have a thing that is not spoken or seen. We have a little bit of a fear of foreigners, a little bit of it, in the sense that we always say, but foreigners are coming to take this, foreigners are coming to, and this is an African feeling,
It
right?
is true.
How do we soften that though to utilize this resource? Because I might be sitting here and I've probably, let's say, my parents or someone has a farm and it's in the middle of the Kalahari, and I think there's no hope. Yet someone in Dubai has been able to turn a desert into a green thing.
Yeah.
Right? How do we then accommodate foreigners? Well, without fear and without thinking they're going to take our country.
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you one of the things, right? Like, I mean, look, I'm a Botswana as well, but I'm a Botswana. Obviously, I'm not an indigenous Botswana, whatever that means. But I'm not an indigenous Botswana. But I'll leave the conversation for the so-called indigenous Botswana to really think about this for yourself, for everyone's selves, right? Yeah. We are at the point where we have to choose what kind of society we want to build.
Yeah.
Okay. Foreigners are going to go to wherever the opportunity is best and wherever they are welcome.
Yeah.
Right. I get invited from Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. I get invited to get a green card there, like a golden visa there all the time. I keep getting these emails saying, "Hey, listen, come to Dubai. We want," because entrepreneurs are scarce.
Yeah.
They want me to come there to build their economy. Now, because I'm patriotic and I'm a Botswana and I love my country and I want to contribute to my country, I have no intention of leaving.
Yeah.
But the point is, if we don't want the foreigners, it's not that they're going to be poor or they're not going to come here or whatever. They'll go somewhere. They'll go where they're welcome.
Yeah.
They'll go to the UAE. They'll go to Qatar. They'll go to the countries that want them.
Yeah.
Right? You look at Dubai. Dubai has a population, the native population or the indigenous population of Dubai is way smaller than Botswana. Way smaller. I think the citizens of the country, I think, are like maybe 400,000 people or 300,000 people. It's like far less than Botswana. But 80% or 90% of their population are foreigners, right? Now, the way they have modeled their country is, they said, look, we want the foreigners to come here. We want them to help us build our economy. We want them to make their money, but maybe we're very selective about citizenship, right? So only the best of the best of the best become citizens, right? The rest of them, you come here, you work your entire life. We'll give you a permanent residence card where you can live here, you can work here, you can retire here, all that kind of stuff. And that's that's the model they've chose. And maybe a model similar to that is what would be right for Botswana, where we, in order to protect the interests of the Botswana who are here, right, is to say citizenship. It's not to say that you shouldn't give it, because remember, we are not Dubai. Like an extremely hardworking foreigner, whether that's Zimbabwean or whatever the case is, has got tons of opportunities.
Yeah,
everywhere. If they go to Europe, they can become citizens of a European country. So remember, you're always in competition.
Yeah.
Your value proposition must be good enough to welcome them, to say, yeah, maybe we'll give you citizenship, but you have to wait for 10 years.
Yeah.
You have to contribute to the economy for 10 years. You have to do this. You have to employ this many Botswana, whatever the case is, right? But there is no doubt in my mind that welcoming diversity will always result in better outcomes for Botswana. Diversity is a good thing, right? The more diversity you have, the more diversity of opinions you have, the more diversity of thoughts you have, the more it creates a very rich and welcoming society. And there is no society in history, especially a small country, that has been homogenous with one group of people, right? Just one group of people, and has still been successful. Think about it. Dubai. They have so much diversity.
Even South Africa, just next
South
door.
Africa, so much diversity.
Despite the issues and the fights and whatever they have,
100%.
it's the foreigners that have come in to contribute.
To contribute in a big way.
Yeah.
You look at Singapore. Singapore also, very diverse. They have Indians, they
Malays,
have
Chinese,
Malays,
yeah.
Chinese, very diverse country, right?
Yeah.
And diversity it's been proven actually that diversity actually results in better outcomes for everyone.
Yeah. But now so we've seen now the president opening, obviously he started first with Namibia,
Yes.
saying, look, passports, put them aside, bring your ID and come in. Now Bokwe has come out to say, no, we are going to do this with other countries and so on, and expanded beyond just what is here. The first thing, especially the borderline citizens of Botswana,
Yes.
they have their own fears
Yeah.
of their neighboring foreigners.
But why are we scared?
You know?
Yeah.
Should we let them in?
Look, I'll tell you something. There will always be short-term pain, right?
Yeah.
Like if we open our borders with Zimbabwe, right? Let's take the worst case or the most scariest example.
Yeah,
Right? The scariest
Zimbabwe,
example
yeah.
is Zimbabwe. We open our borders with Zimbabwe. Now, 10 million Zimbabweans are not going to come overnight, right? The people that want to come illegally have already come illegally.
They're already here.
They're already here, or they're in South Africa, right?
Yeah.
Like, think about it. You're talking about just a fence, right? To jump the fence is like, it takes 5 minutes. Like, I mean,
And they're used to it.
they're used to it. So whoever is here illegally is already here illegally.
And they're not going anywhere.
Correct. A piece of legislation is not going to change anything, right? So why not just make it easier? Because I'll tell you what happens, and it's a funny thing. I obviously have family members who are still Indian citizens, right, and who have not naturalized and are not Botswana. You wouldn't believe this, right? Our original visa document, right, or the permanent residency before they brought about the cards in Botswana, it used to be a piece of paper, right? And on that, they take a photograph and they staple the photograph to this piece of paper. And I used to always think about this, and I used to say, if I wanted to defraud the country, it takes like 10 seconds to fake this document. But they make it so difficult for foreigners to come in, but to bypass the system is so easy. So what you're creating is the people that are thieves, that are the bad actors, right? Foreigners who are bad actors.
Yeah.
It becomes really easy for them to do it because they're not scared to go to jail. They're gonna forge documents.
It's their lifestyle anyway.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle anyway.
Yeah.
But the genuine investors, the people who want to contribute to an economy and all that, are getting frustrated by bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Funny story. I don't know how true this is, but I heard that one of the richest man in India, Ambani, right? He apparently comes to Botswana very often. Like he goes to the Okavango Delta.
That's very possible.
Yeah, he comes to the Okavango Delta to enjoy with his family, and then he flies back and he spends his money in Botswana, and he spends tons of money here. Indian citizens need a visa to enter Botswana. And apparently there was a time when his visa was rejected. This is what they say. The richest man in India. I mean, he's a multi-billionaire.
The guy who comes here is just
to spend money in our economy, right? They rejected his visa. And what message are we sending?
Yeah.
Right? Now, if we go to that person and we say, come invest in Botswana, set up a factory, hire people, create jobs, invest in Botswana entrepreneurs, invest in this, invest in that, right? He's going to say, look, you guys are running a bureaucratic operation, right? Like for me to even get a tourist visa, you guys rejected me, like, so we have to have this welcoming approach. And I think coming back to the question of like, should we open up our borders with our neighboring countries, especially? Yes, if we open up our borders, will some Zimbabweans come across illegally? Yeah, they will. But the ones who want to come illegally are already here.
Yeah.
Why not open it up? If we can build up our population to the point where we have free movement of goods and free movement of people, and we have a population base of 60 million, 70 million people, only then our economy becomes viable for any investor to look at. Because you think about this, right? Is it viable for me to set up a huge, I'm trying to think of what kind of a business, like you think about something that's there in South Africa, right? Like anything that's a huge investment, like an oil refinery that services one country.
Yeah.
The problem we have in Africa is because of colonialism, we have this problem where we are divided into 54 different countries.
Yeah.
And none of us trust each other.
And we don't like each other even. Yeah.
Exactly. Where were we before borders? Before the Europeans came and colonized and drew up borders, we used to freely move. Like, you think about it, like, Bakalanga, right? They were originally, apparently, they were on the other side of the river, on the Zimbabwean side. Some people came over to the Botswana side, right? And so the point is, there was a lot more free movement of people before the Europeans came and drew these borders that we now vehemently say, no, we are Botswana and we don't want
Yeah.
foreigners. And
And funny thing, when they come to our countries, they don't need visas. When we go to their countries, we need
we need
visas.
visas. What is the logic in that?
Yeah. So we need to obviously clean this up and
Yeah.
and get people to understand. I like using the notion of a fat cake.
Yeah.
That if we had 10 million Zimbabweans coming into Botswana,
Yeah.
that's a Botswana cooking fat cakes now facing to sell 10 more potential market of 10 million. So if you're selling to 500 people a day fat cakes, you can sell to 1,000 now. You can go to 2,000 fat cakes in a day.
100%.
And we don't see that as, we think that, I don't know what they're going to come here. If a foreigner comes here, what are they going to take, really?
No, what are they going to take? That's the whole point, right?
Don't we need to track who they are and take their money via tax,
Exactly.
have them swipe in our stores and our ATMs?
Exactly.
But that is the one thing that actually could be hindering the country.
Yeah.
If we say we open and we say, look, tomorrow let's open, let them come in.
Yeah.
What do we have to protect us about, and how do we protect ourselves if we think we have fear?
Sure. I think the trump card here is citizenship, and it's a very politically rife subject, right? Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people who will not agree with me on this, but I think citizenship should be reserved for people who are genuine contributors to the economy, right? Citizenship through naturalization,
Yeah.
meaning Botswana who are Botswana, right? But like, if somebody wants to naturalize, if I'm a foreigner and I want to become a Botswana, the question is very simple, right? And I think now, I'm not sure if you know this, but if a foreigner wants to naturalize, they have to speak Setswana. It's a requirement.
Yeah, that's
right?
one of the, yeah.
Is
But there's
that
some
going to
who
be
don't.
there are a lot who don't, but but how relevant is that going to be in 50 years, 100 years?
Or just in basic trade day to day.
Yeah, like, even you think about your kids, or whatever the case is, like, how, if you live in Gaborone, right, and your kids go to private school, do they really speak Setswana
No, they
themselves,
don't.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so we have to, maybe it's a hard conversation to have. What is the meaning of a Motswana? What does it mean to be a Motswana? Is it a cultural identity? Is it a national identity? Are we open to the concept of people who look like me being Botswana, right? I am a Motswana, but I'm told no, when I'm Motswana or Pampiri, and like,
But it differs with area to area.
yeah,
Take Lobatse, for example.
Yeah.
We don't know a Motswana by race.
No, we don't.
In Lobatse, we've got Maburu along the border. We've
Exactly.
got Indians on the far south of the town.
Correct.
Chinese in the middle. We don't even care. We just know.
Nobody cares,
In Lobatse, I doubt people speak to you in English.
No.
We are in Botswana. They're not gonna-
100% it's Setswana. Like, and it's hilarious because when you go to Lobatse and you meet, like, whether it's Indian people or Maburu or whatever, like, they speak fluent Setswana.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how we grew up, because Lobatse is a very diverse place.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is, when you go, like, Gaborone and, like, a lot of the villages around here, people are not used to, or they view diversity with a skeptical lens.
Yeah.
Right? To say, this guy, why is it that he's coming to my place and he's doing this and he's taking my job, or whatever the case is. But I think it's unnecessary. Like, if we are welcoming and we first, you protect your interests.
Yeah.
Right? You protect your interests first.
So yeah,
Right?
you can't just become a Motswana.
Yeah. Can't just become a Motswana. You must be a genuine person who genuinely contributes to the country, right? Then welcome. You're welcome to be a Motswana. But, like, I think the other aspect of it is also land. We have a problem, and it might be a legacy of the colonial system. We have a lot of freehold land.
Yeah.
And the problem with freehold land is, if people gain access to freehold land and they keep it for generations and generations and generations, it's not getting diversified, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't, another hardworking, so, why should my kid, right, be entitled to land that I worked hard to build, right? Or his kid,
Yeah.
or their kid. Like intergenerational wealth is always a problem for a lot of societies, and you end up with small clusters of people who become extremely wealthy, and their children become wealthy, and their children's children become wealthy, and so on.
Yet the rest are just left out.
The rest are left out. And that's the problem that South Africa faces. And it's a huge problem in South Africa because a lot of the white people who got freehold land as a result of colonialism, like to a large degree, look, a lot of people did buy their land genuinely
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. We won't get into that. But because of the freehold system, their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' it goes down generation to generation to generation. And it's not a meritocracy, right? And I know it's going to be a very unpopular opinion among a lot of white South Africans who are going to say, no, it's mine, I earned it, or whatever the case is. But like what is ideal is a system where wealth gets reset with every generation.
Yeah.
So that every Botswana has the opportunity to work hard and become wealthy and successful. It should not be a monopoly that is reserved for a select few, in my opinion.
And I think that same thing actually for Botswana went into the public service.
Yeah.
There are certain families who've never tasted working in the public service.
Yeah.
Because certain families have kept it to themselves. And you see the same name recycled with the marriage, but it's the same. When you go to a funeral, all of them are in that place.
In that place, yeah.
So these are things that we need to also obviously try to manage. Yeah. But can't then foreigners come in? When my thing is, if one foreigner comes in and starts a business, how many foreigners is he really employing? Let's be realistic. His first choice of employment.
Hardly. It's Botswana. I mean,
yeah. So when are we going to see it that way? That when a foreigner comes, I'm the one who's going to do his advertising, or I'm the one who's going to provide him with his insurance and so on.
Exactly.
And in my insurance or my advertising firm, I have 50 other Botswana who are benefiting from it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I'll give you a case in point. At Alpha Direct, we now create livelihoods for 350 people, just Alpha Direct.
Yeah.
Right? And I think 99.999% are Botswana.
Yeah.
Like, I think we have like maybe 2 foreigners in the whole group, right? That's it.
Yeah.
So, or maybe 1 foreigner, that's it. Like, we hardly have any foreigners. Like, everyone is Botswana. We contribute greatly to the economy in that sense. And I think the same is, you take any company that either was originally owned by foreigners or is currently owned by foreigners, I think you will see that the vast majority, at least 75, 80%, 90% of the people they hire are Botswana. Now, is there a problem that maybe they don't historically give high-paying positions to Botswana? Yes, definitely. Yeah. Historically, a lot of time, especially in the 90s and all that stuff, there was a big argument that we didn't have the skills in Botswana for management level people to be Botswana and all that kind of stuff. And that was maybe at the time it was a genuine argument, in the sense that the most capable Botswana all got government jobs, or they worked for FNB or one of the big corporates and stuff like that, right? So we did have a problem in skills at the time. But I don't think that holds true today.
Yeah.
Today, Botswana are just as competent, if not more competent and capable than expats.
Yeah.
We've found, like, when we look at the decision of whether we should bring an expat for a skilled role or a Botswana, we found that 9 out of 10 times there are adequate skills in Botswana. There are people that have got the skills and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, and why do you want to bring someone in and then now from a different country apply for permits, and then now they have to go back every 2 years? And we would rather hire Botswana. That's what I'm saying from our side. Now, not all industries are the same.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot of industries, like, Flowtech, for example, employs a lot of engineers, like plastic engineers and extremely technical people, right? You cannot. There are hardly any plastic engineers in Botswana, right? Let's face it, right?
Yeah, there's actually never been a need to think.
There's never been a plastics industry in Botswana, right? So these kind of genuine cases where you have to bring foreigners, you don't have a choice, right? Because we don't have the skills here.
Yeah.
Open it up. Just bring foreigners. At least these manufacturing enterprises are still employing 600, 1,000 Botswana, like at various levels, like some at supervisory levels, some at management levels, some at factory worker levels, whatever the case is. But the direct employment is so high. So it's okay, even if you're giving a couple of permits for foreigners or whatever, it's fine. The net benefit to Botswana and to Botswana is high.
Yeah. So how do we then get this company? So you find certain companies will come and it's a foreigner comes, sets up a business here.
Yeah.
His distributor is another foreigner.
Yeah.
Who comes in? Is distribution really an investment?
So I think, look, you cannot, I don't think it's right. It's right for us to dictate how free market principles work, right? Like, so if my supplier, for example, is a foreigner and my supplier's supplier is a foreigner, and yes, it is known that a lot of foreigners create these channels where I do business with you and you do business with them and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's true. But there's nothing that prevents a Botswana from going and setting up a business and competing with that foreigner,
With the foreigner,
and earning that business. I don't think a foreigner will. And maybe I'm naive. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive and I don't know any better. But I don't think a foreigner is going to support a brother from his home country just because he's a brother from his home country.
Merit should be applied.
Merit should be applied, right? And if that person is, charging 10% more than a Botswana who's offering the same product, I don't think they will continue to support someone just because of the color of their skin or where they come from.
All right. So now, in closing this, let's wrap it up and see, where do you see the country in a few years? And actually, where do you see yourself? I mean, we see there's growth coming.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the country in the next few years?
Look, my goal is I want to try and, this is my passion project. I want to bring in foreign investors, not just foreign. I want to bring in local investors, foreign investors, whatever we can do, whoever we can bring in to come into Botswana and set up mega enterprises that are going to contribute to our primary economy. I want to do everything I possibly can. I'm posting on LinkedIn. I've already gotten a lot of people who from other countries who want to invest a lot of money in the country, and I'm trying to get them to
good luck with the red tape.
I'm trying whatever I can, but let's see. Hopefully everything works out for the best. And I think what I would love to see is in 10 years' time to see diamond revenue account for maybe 20% of our GDP.
Yeah.
And
the rest is within the private
and the rest
sector.
is diversified into farming, into different tourism, whatever the case is, and we have a nice, good, diversified economy.
All right. No, thank you very much, Arjun, for your time, obviously, and coming
so
through.
much.
And best of luck. I think I'll try to find your brother and catch him and get him on the
You should.
All right. No, thank you very much.
No, pleasure.
All right. And
Thank
that's
you.
how we end the things sec today. We're just looking at an overview of how the country should go, but we obviously dwelled into our fear of trying to bring foreign investors, yet we are afraid of foreigners. Let's have a look at how Botswana will look in the next few months, but let's all try and pray. Whatever hand we can throw into this thing, let's try and get our economy going. Politics aside, we need to build our Botswana.